Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. Oh boy, they got Jose. Jose, you're supposed to be my friend, okay? It is 3:45. I am not late. I was late in the morning. I'm here today. And they got Jose. Jose's supposed to be a friend. He's a contributor on the show. And he's joined the chat in the antics of accusing me, quite literally accusing and abusing me of being late, which is I guess it's the chat got him, dude. Like the chat is very influential, and now now Jose tends to claim that I'm late, but I'm here. 3:46 p.m. We've got a lot to talk about today. Palantir and the fight for $30, folks. We have not been able to maintain that $30 range, unfortunately, today. We fought pretty hard. Palantir 29.42 just was not able to get there. The market opened at 31.20 on the day, which was exciting to see right there, 31.20. And then became the slow fall. So I'm sure a lot of people that were buying at 31.20 are probably a little upset because they thought this was going higher. But I mean, what do we expect, right? Like the stock is up a lot year to date. At 31.20, it was up, I think, more than 80%. So like we were going to, no, it was up. Well, no, it was like 90%. Yeah, because the stock was 16 to start the year. So 32 is a double. So it was up almost like 93% in the morning. It came back down a little bit, still holding up very well. If 29 becomes the new base, I am not going to be a sad shareholder. So nice to see Palantir still here at 29.40, but down 2% on the day. S&P 500 is basically flat on the day at 532. There's some concerns geopolitically and macro-wise for why that's the case. And then the NASDAQ is basically flat. You see it a little bit green right here, but it's flat. NVIDIA is actually green 4%. So it's actually a weird day. You've got NVIDIA up 4%, which is awesome. While the NASDAQ is flat, while the S&P is flat, NVIDIA is about 7% of the S&P 500, I think like 12% of the NASDAQ. So NVIDIA being up and those two indices being flat means that other stocks that have large weightings in those indices are down. And then IWM really is not catching a bid either. IWM's down right here at $204 right now. Kind of a choppy day, nothing too crazy. There are some outperformers. We'll talk about Robinhood in a bit. They got a price target of $32. I found the official price target in the morning. I didn't know if that was official, but I found the report. Shout out to Andrew, by the way. I messaged him on Twitter because he's my hookup for these Bank of America reports, and he sent it to me immediately. So shout out to him if he's watching, and he got me the report. But we're up 3.37% today. 2 upgrades, one from Piper Sandler, one from Bank of America. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Vlad also did a new interview with Bankless. You guys might know that podcast. It's a crypto podcast. I'm going to be streaming that live tomorrow at 8 p.m. So 8 p.m. to like 9:30 tomorrow. I'll be watching that podcast live with everybody. Whoever wants to join can watch. It's a very crypto heavy podcast. So if you're into crypto and into sort of the disruption of financial services, that podcast is like tailor-made on that. And I think it'll be pretty cool. So overall, Robinhood had a great day. NVIDIA had a great day. Palantir had a flat day. I mean, down 2%, but you know, it's up a lot year to date and up 45% from the lows on Monday. And the NASDAQ and the S&P are flat. Not too much to gain from all this information. Kind of just like a boring day, quite frankly. We do have the Trump-Elon interview tonight. I will be live streaming that at 8 p.m. I have no idea what to expect, but I'll be live at 7:50. 8 p.m. we'll get into the spaces. I don't think it's going to be video. I think it's just going to be audio, and we'll see. It's going to be a pretty bombastic interview. I have no idea what they're going to talk about, but I mean, I have some idea. They're probably going to talk about the election, politics, electric vehicles, all that stuff, but we'll see what he says. Trump is also officially back on Twitter. He's officially tweeting. DJT is down because of this. The reason DJT is down, is because lost audio for a second. Sorry, it should be back. Should be good now. The reason DJT is down is because Trump started posting on Twitter. And what's the value to DJT if Trump's posting on Twitter? Because the whole point is to use Trump's brand to get people to use Truth Social. DJT still valued at $4.6 billion. The company does like $1 million of revenue. So price to sales is 4,413. I mean, we thought ASTS had a crazy price to sales. ASTS, I know a lot of you got into this one and it's done very well. ASTS is a price to sale. Okay, never mind. ASTS has a price to sales of 9,700. I thought it was like 4,000. I guess it went up over the weekend as the stock went up. It's down 8% today. So it would have been like 10,000 price to sales if it wasn't down 8%. DJT has a price to sales of 5,000. So it's going to be interesting. Maybe he's saying, screw DJT, screw Truth Social. I don't care anymore because I want distribution, and Twitter has way more distribution than Elon, but, than DJT, than Truth Social. But obviously he's picking media and getting attention over just using his own app, because at the end of the day, a lot of people just don't use Truth Social, right? They use Twitter. And that's kind of what we're going to be streaming tonight and see what ends up happening from there. Raymond James maintained a target on Palantir to outperform with a price target of 34 from a prior price target of 39. Interesting. Oh, on Target. I thought this was on Palantir. Yeah, Target's going to be an interesting one. I think they report next week. Bank of America is, or Walmart is going to be, Walmart got an upgrade of $74 today. So we're going to see Walmart's earnings on Thursday. After the bell, we don't have too many companies. We have Rumble. I'm just interested in that personally because I don't know. I think that's a very interesting company. I do think it's overvalued. Maybe it does well after hours, but we'll talk about Rumble. And then Wolf Miner, that's a company that's reporting. So Rumble and Wolf, if you're into the Bitcoin miners, those are the ones that we're going to be looking at today and see kind of what that happens. Jose says, not sure if possible, but would love to hear Elon mention things about AI and semiconductors. Both are crucial technologies for national security, and Elon is very familiar with both. Well, the thing is, I'm curious what Elon's approach is for this interview. I mean, I think Elon really wants Trump to win. It's very obvious. I think he's going to try to paint Trump in a special light. I don't think he's going to try to do any gotcha questions. I think he's going to let him talk. And I think Trump's going to take advantage of that because he's going to have a couple million people listening to what he has to say. So I'm going to be really interested to see how he conducts the interview. I doubt we're going to get super technical, nuanced answers on certain things. And I don't think Elon really cares about doing that. But he wants Trump to get his sound bites. And so today we'll see what sound bites he ends up getting. So that will be interesting tonight at 8 p.m. And we will be hearing what he has to say, and I'll be streaming that live. Wonder if Tesla will drop due to this interview. Well, actually, it's happening at 8 p.m. So two things about this. The markets close at 8 p.m., right? So, and we don't have Robinhood overnight trading. So we're not going to be able to see any of the price action on Tesla when the interview starts. Number two, some people are saying Iran wants to attack Israel at 8 p.m. during the interview to take away attention from the interview. So like, there's a lot of shit that's going to be happening tonight, and I'll be live at 7:50 to start covering it. But we're going to see kind of how this plays out and where it goes. We get PPI tomorrow and we get CPI on Wednesday. Usually we get PPI after CPI. This week we're getting PPI tomorrow, CPI on Wednesday. If PPI is good, that might be another catalyst this week. It might signal that CPI is going to be good. And if that's the case, maybe we're going to get a rate cut pretty soon. Let's listen to Cameron Dawson before we get into the market close. Here's what she had to say, and then we'll keep going from there.
Solved some of the issue with positioning. I think that is the one silver lining that came out of last week, is that if you look at that Deutsche Bank consolidated positioning report, it went from being way extended, way overweight, 96th percentile. Now it's just 31st percentile. So that just suggests that you shook out some loose hands, and that does set the stage to draw more money back into the equity market. Now, there are still overarching concerns. Do we have a growth scare? What's going on with earnings? But I think at least from the positioning front, it's good.
Yeah, what about the carry trade that got all this attention? I guess no one really knows whether it's fully unwound or what else may lie overseas based on other central bank moves. We're so fixated on the Fed here, but we're learning that other central banks hold the key very much so to where this market may go too.
Certainly. If we look at things like CFTC positioning, which is not perfect for looking at yen positioning, it has bounced back a lot, meaning that a lot of shorts have been covered. But it does raise the point that we could still be in this world of higher volatility in FX markets. And we note mostly this week, high volatility within fixed income because we get CPI, PPI, and retail sales.
What do you think is most important, the inflation reads or the retail read, given this what felt like a panic attack we had a week ago today?
Because we think that there's a greater risk for downside to growth than there is a risk for upside to inflation, we think retail sales is actually more important. Of course, if CPI or PPI comes out hot, that could spark a lot of volatility, mostly in the bond market. Remember, the bond market still has quite a few cuts priced in, 4 cuts priced in through the end of the year. But if we think about that growth story, it really will give an eye to how accurate is the labor market data. If retail sales falls off, then we might know that the labor market could be weaker than maybe some of the headline data suggests.
And that's very important. We keep hearing all this consumer weakness stuff, retail data that's coming out this week. That's going to prove to us how bad the consumer data is getting. Last month's retail data was relatively flat. June was like literally flat from May. So the consumer was fine. If July sees a decrease, then maybe Disney, McDonald's, Starbucks, they're not really exaggerating the truth about the consumer continuing to be in a bad space. The 2-year and the 10-year, as you can see right here, they're still inverted. The 2-year is giving you a 4% yield, 10-year 3.9, very close. On Friday, for a couple of minutes, they uninverted, which is a really good sign. We'll see if that uninversion can happen again, but as of now, they are still inverted.
you put this to our production team was what happened last week, quote, reset the clock for equities to give them more room to run. So it got through a lot of the issues that needed to be taken care of. And now what kind of runway do you actually see existing?
Yeah, so in theory, it resets the clock, meaning because of that positioning reset, it does help to at least start from a point where we're not as stretched. I think one interesting observation, though, is we went from very overweight positioning to now neutral, slightly underweight with relatively little pain. So as people get brought back in, do we get the same kind of boost than if it had come with a bigger drawdown within the market? The other thing to note is markets got a little oversold last week, but on things like percentage of names above their 50-day moving average, we got not oversold at all, which just suggests we really didn't see a true flush.
What surprised you more?
Now, she's right about that. We actually did not see a true flush. I mean, dude, like the toilet this morning had a better flush than the market yesterday, last week, because we went to 507 on the S&P 500 for like 2 seconds, dude. I mean, like we did, like we had like a, you know, we had a little bit of a correction, but that correction lasted so short. And I think it lasted for such a small amount of time because people got excited. They got equities. They got Palantir at $20. They saw these equities that were so cheap relative to where they had been trading all year, along with earnings growth that justified getting excited for Palantir at $20. And people bought the dip. And so she's right about this. We have not seen some massive flush out outside of large cap tech, which we knew Microsoft did not deserve to be $460 or Google deserved to be like $195. Like that was kind of expected. I know it's easier to say that in hindsight, but now you can look back and be like, yeah, that was reasonable. And it happened. And I think it's much more reasonable. It's much more exciting for us to be able to get into those names at these lower valuations. But the broader indices, besides IWM, which, you know, IWM was IWM. It really didn't have a run the whole year. Nothing really has happened that has been that volatile. Dan Ives this morning confirmed on CNBC with his note that he still believes September is going to be the bottom. So he does not think, and it was based on the same thesis that Cameron Dawson is talking about, which is that we have not really seen a volatile market. So what he said right here, what was interesting about the argument Dan Niles made, you guys like the toilet joke? I knew you would like the toilet joke. See, I got some jokes in me into the close. Dan Niles said, look, while I posted about a high probability of an oversold bounce following the 3% decline of the S&P on 8.5, I believe it is prudent to get more conservative following the recent rally that has erased all of those losses. From a long-term perspective, I still do not think we get a recession. There are still over 10% more jobs opening than people unemployed. Unemployment is still low at 4.3%. The Fed is expected to cut multiple times this year. As a result, I would become more bullish upon a retest of the 8.5 lows on the S&P. So Dan wants to see a bounce from 8.5 again, meaning 507 on the S&P, 420 on the NASDAQ, before he thinks we're done with the flushing out of the market, which I think is fair. I just don't know if the market's ready to give him that low of a price again without like some massive catalyst. VIX went to 60. We're moving on. Exactly as Matthias says in the chat, like the VIX went to 60. Unless the VIX gets there again, I don't know if we're seeing those levels. So in general, I agree with Cameron. Like we might see some more volatility. I don't know if we're getting that low, but the quote unquote flush out we had, it was just not as bad of a flush as most people thought. And we felt it as, you know, people bought the dip and obviously are benefiting from that dip. Palantir going into the close, we are looking at Palantir at 29.32, down 2.32% on the day. 30 was always going to be tough to hold. I think we all knew that, but the fact that we got there and we surpassed it for a good 15 minutes today at least showed that the normalization of buying it at 30, the appetite is there. And if we dip to 26, 27, that becomes hopefully a new base to buy a dip. And I think Q3, they're probably going to get closer to 30% growth. They were at 27 last quarter. And that growth, along with NVIDIA earnings plus a rate cut, might be able to get this bad boy down to 35 towards the end of the year. So let's see. Let's see if it ends up playing out. Thank you, everybody, for being here. August 12th, 4 p.m. Monday. The stock market is now closed. All right. The market is now closed. I also do want to shout out Midwest right here. So Midwest Cannabis, big. I mean, he's been following the channel since like 2021. He just had to put down his dog today. Midwest, how many years was the dog? I think it was 9 to 10 years you've had that dog. So rest in peace to Midwest's dog. I've never had a pet. I had a cat for a week, and then my mom returned it to Petco. It's It's a sad and funny story, but I've never really had a pet, so I've never been able to get emotionally attached to a pet. But rest in peace to your dog, Midwest. Very sorry to see that. I'm sure people that do have pets relate, because that is not a fun situation after having a dog for a very, very long time. So rest in peace to Midwest's dog. Thank you for being here in the chat. And we got the whole community with you, hoping that things go okay. Palantir right here, 29.33, down 0.1% on the day, or 2.1% on the day. Nvidia ends the day up 4%. So Nvidia right here up 4.08% of the day. Tesla basically ends the day down 1.26%. Robinhood, we'll talk more about the upgrade they got. They end the day at 1854, up 3.46% on the day. So Robinhood is up 1854, 3.4% on the day. Bank of America down about 0.3%. Truist down about 0.79%. Dell up 3%. SMCI up 6.3% of the day. SMCI was up almost 9% of the day. Now it ends up 6%, but still a great day for them. Rocket Lab up 0.37%. Short QQQ down 0.5% today. Celsius continuing to basically be flat and or down 0.13%. And the rest of the broader market basically flat. S&P ends the day up a little bit right at the close, up 0.05%. And then the NASDAQ here at 451.22%. On the day. SoFi really couldn't get any momentum today. SoFi down 2.4%. I didn't even know why SoFi was down. I was trying to figure out. I had no clue. Let's get into Rumble earnings. I think that's going to be out in a second. But if anyone has any theories on why SoFi is down, let me know, because I have no idea. Rumble is up 4.5% after hours. Let me see if I can get their numbers. Now, look, I am not a fan of Rumble, because if you look at their financials, it makes no sense. I do think some people would buy Rumble just to like fight off YouTube censorship, because like they believe that Rumble is the answer to it. I think that's a thesis you could have. I don't think the numbers really back that up, but Rumble right here up 5.74%. Let me see if I can get those numbers, and then we'll look at those earnings. But yeah, SoFi was down 2% on the day. And then again, broader S&P basically was flat on the day. I don't think, there was really no news with SoFi other than those banking partnership stuff that they put out last week. But outside of that, I didn't really see any new news. And they had a partnership with American Express for small business banking. But outside of that, I saw no other news. Okay, Rumble, do we have earnings? Nothing on their website yet. Yeah, they're probably updating it right now. And then Wolf, I don't know if you guys are into that one. WLF, TeraWolf. That one is up 0.28%. That is a Bitcoin miner. So that's another one that we have today. But that's it for today. Rumble and Wolf are the main ones. Alex and Elon interview again. I'll be streaming that at 8 p.m. So 8 p.m. I'll look at that. On, I don't think is today. The sneakers, I don't think on is today. I think that's later in the week. Yeah, on is not today, or at least it's not after the close. Not what I'm seeing. So on should not be here today. Are you allowed to say YouTube censor on a live stream? I hope so, dude. I hope YouTube doesn't do that. Midwest says her name was Talua. Wow. I'm sorry about that, Midwest. I haven't told you guys a story about when I had a cat, but we had a cat for a week when I was like in second grade. My mom got scared of it after a week and she returned it. I wasn't that sad, but my sister was more sad because my sister was older than me. She really wanted a cat. My mom, she had dreams of cats and dogs chasing her when she was little. So I don't know how we convinced her to get us a cat in like 2005, but we convinced her. But then she saw the cat running at home and she was just like, she like got terrified. She had like PTSD. And so we had to return the cat. It's kind of funny. It's also kind of like heartbreaking, but like that's, so I never grew up with a dog or a cat because my mom just didn't like pets. I've always wanted a dog though. Bitcoin at 59,000. I hope I can get a dog one day. Because like I love dogs and I see dogs on TikTok all day and I really want a dog. But I don't have a dog yet. Rumble up 7%. So I think the number should be out in a minute and we'll see what happens with Rumble. Yeah, press release is not out yet. It should be updating in a bit. And then we'll see what we have on Rumble. She returned it like an Amazon package. Nah, legit, dude. She went back to Petco and like they didn't even cash out the check. Like they gave her back the literal check she paid on Monday. She got back the check on Friday. I remember this happening, dude. And I was the cat's name was Jimmy. Why did we name it Jimmy? I don't know, but we named it Jimmy. And now, now I don't have a cat. Now I don't have a cat. I would love a dog though. I've grown like I don't really like cats that much anymore. They're kind of like, I don't know, dude. Cats are a little. I feel like a dog would be more fun. So in the future, when I move out, I want to get my own dog. Okay, so TeraWolf is up 1%. Rumble's up 4.8%. Now you're getting a real red candle here. So if the earnings aren't out, I don't know if it was, now it's just collapsing. It was up 6%. Now it's up 1%. So let's see when the numbers come out. Chris says, my kids wanted a dog, promised they would walk it and poop it. Now they're out with their friends and I'm walking and cleaning up after it. Well, dogs are a man's best friend, right? Dogs are a man's best friend. So you ended up, well, this is what happens when you have young kids too. I mean, like the parents end up taking care of the dog. All right, here we go. We got Rumble earnings. We have Rumble earnings. Here we go. Here's what we got on Rumble. So revenue for the second quarter was $22.5 million, a sequential increase of 27% from the first quarter of 2024. Now, notice they're not giving the year-over-year comparison there. They're only giving the quarter-over-quarter comparison, probably because the year-over-year comparison is down. Average global monthly users of 53 million compared to 50 million in the first quarter of 2024. I still think that's down from last year, second quarter 2023. So already those results are still down, but at least it's up quarter over quarter. Set a record new live stream concurrent for Donald Trump's speech or his debate with Joe Biden. 718,000 people watched that. Okay. As previously discussed, given Rumble's increasing focus on monetization of its user base, the company introduced a new key business metric, average revenue per user, that we better believe reflects our management team. Average revenue per user was 37 cents. Hours of uploaded video a day was 13,000. YouTube, by the way, is 500 hours a minute. So like the level of scale is a bit different. And then Rumble sued Google for $1 billion. We'll see if Google has to give Rumble $1 billion. But those are the earnings that we have on Rumble. Stock is up 7%. Look, I don't know. I mean, if you're into Rumble, then I guess you got some momentum there. But again, I think it's not profitable. Revenue growth is really just not that strong. You really have to believe a long-term thesis of like beating YouTube if you're Rumble to get a big return. I don't really see that thesis playing out yet, but Rumble is up 7%. And so I guess the street likes these results. Palantir flat after hours, 29.36. TeraWolf, we don't have their numbers yet, but they are up 0.28% in the after hours. And after that, there's no other kind of big earnings on the day. Amazon at 166, Coinbase at 191. Bitcoin was at 61,000, then it fell to 59. Again, this geopolitical stuff not really doing the best for Bitcoin, kind of messing up a lot of its mojo. Tonight, we will see if Iran actually engages in a wide-scale attack. And if that does happen, we might see some more pressure on Bitcoin and futures. If that doesn't, then maybe there's not that bad of a impact on Bitcoin. Hey, Amit, any chance you can do an entire podcast episode on how Palantir uses its ontology and tech to create a digital twin to make informed decisions about the physical business? So Chad and I are working on something like this. He's going to come on. He's been going through some personal stuff over the past couple of weeks, so he hasn't been able to like really make a podcast or content, but we're working on coming up with a podcast. Basically, Chad sat down with me and Arnie before AIPCon. By the way, speaking of Palantir, I got to show you guys something. And he explained to us like everything about the ontology. And that was the first like day where I actually felt I understood what an ontology was. So I think if we open source that conversation to everybody, which he wants to do, then I think it'll be like one of the best podcasts ever on Palantir. So eventually we're going to do that, hopefully in the next like month. But yeah, definitely we're going to work on that podcast. So shout out to Garcia, friend of the channel. We had our boy Iliano send him an OG black, white, and sweatshirt from Palantir, a navy blue, white trucker cap, and then a gray cap signed by Dr. Alex Karp. So Garcia got the black box today from Iliano. Again, this is why I think Palantir is winning. They're engaging with the retail investors. Garcia has been investing in Palantir for like 2-3 years now. He's the meme lord of the community. He makes like these amazing memes on Palantir that are just super fun and engaging and big part of the community. So Iliano really hooked him up with a nice black box filled with Palantir gear. It's just exciting stuff that you want to see, and you're happy for people in the community to benefit from that. Another piece of news right here. So the New York Fed, after the market close ended, or we saw this really at the end of the market close, the New York Fed put out their 3-year inflation expectation, and they said, hey, we think it's falling to 2.3%. So Powell has said he wanted expectations to come down around inflation, not just the numbers, but the expectations around what inflation will look like over the next 5 years. The New York Fed is saying, we think it's coming in at 2.3. And so if you get a 2 handle on the CPI, which comes out on Wednesday, I'll be live at 8:20 before we get results at 8:30 in the morning. I think we're going to get 2.8. If we get 2.8 and you get a a CPI that's starting to really fall precipitously, and we get 2.5 by September or 2.3 by the end of December, I mean, you have no choice but to cut rates. You cannot have a federal funds rate at 5.5%, which is almost double of what CPI would be, or at least 60% of CPI. It's just going to make no sense. So we're going to get those cuts. Those cuts are going to be very beneficial for things like small caps, SoFi, etc. And then it's just going to be a question of how the broader market reacts. But I think that data was also a really good piece of data that helped the markets this morning, because expectations seem to be going at least in the right direction. Isn't it expected to be 3.2 on Wednesday? So I haven't seen the official projections. I am guessing 2.8. I could be wrong on this. And the reason I'm guessing 2.8 is because I think oil is like where you get your catalyst to come down. If it's 3.2, that means it's reaccelerating from 3.0. I don't know what would be the cost for the reacceleration besides a labor market that's a little bit hotter than expected. But we saw the unemployment data right before August 5th. We went from 4.1 to 4.3%. So how is it a hot labor market? I don't think it's shelter. I think shelter is coming down. I definitely don't think it's oil. Oil was almost 72, 73 for the majority of July. It's like, where's the inflation coming from? If it ends up being 3.2, I don't know how markets are going to interpret that. So I really hope it's below 3. But if it's above 3 and we get a bit of reacceleration, you're going to get this argument that we can't cut rates. So coming in below 3 would be very important. Rumble's now up 10% after hours, up about 61 cents, $6.30. S&P is flat. QQQ is flat as well. Okay, let's talk about Robinhood. Robinhood had a monster day. And Robinhood had a monster day for a good reason. TeraWulf is flat after hours. Let me see if there's numbers on Wolf. Okay, we got Wolf. $35 million in revenue. Revenue growth of 130%. Adjusted EBIT of $19.5 million. Still not profitable. Stock's flat. Yeah, there you go. TeraWulf, one of those Bitcoin miners. Wow, the volume on that thing was 15 million today. So I guess people really care about this one. Here's the picture. They self-mined 699 Bitcoin, which is down a little bit. Below 3 would be interpreted as a recession again. No. I don't think below 3 is a recession. I think below 3 is like we're gonna be in a recession if the Fed doesn't cut. Below 3 is bullish. Now, if we come in at like 2% flat, then it's like, oh my God, like, yeah, the Fed needs to cut immediately. But we're going to come in at 2.8, in my opinion, or 2.9. And that means it's just going to give the Goldilocks zone for the Fed to cut. It's not going to be too low or not too high. TeraWulf, $35 million in revenue. They mined about $46 million of Bitcoin, increased their cost $22,000 per Bitcoin, which is expensive. That's probably due to the halving event. And obviously because Bitcoin's value has gone up, so it costs more to mine it. And then revenue's up 130%. Overall flat, nothing that interesting with TeraWulf. But those are the earnings for TeraWulf today. Okay, so Robinhood. Really good day on Robinhood. And the reason for that is because we got an upgrade by Bank of America, and a really sophisticated upgrade as well. So $32 on Bank of America. Apparently, I don't know how I missed this, but Bank of America issued a price target at $24 in May 14th. So I was like, okay, that's awesome. I guess I didn't notice that it went up to $28 after that. I don't know what day that happened. And then today it goes to 32. So they raised it twice in the course of 2 months, and it was a really good upgrade. So let's read a little bit from here. Net deposits grew an annual 41% on an annualized basis, and management disclosed that July had $4 billion in net deposits. We believe that Hood is missing some key capabilities, including the ability to custody mutual funds, index, fixed income, CDs, etc. Long-term, Hood has positioned itself well in the fast-growing segment of the brokerage space. We expect them to continue benefiting from the both total market tailwinds as well as increasing market share from competitors, given their competitive pricing, strong investor community, and highly rated user experience and interface. They raised the EPS estimates not from $1 in 2026, but $1.45. And so that's really the exciting part of this upgrade to $32. They're also using a 16x multiple on 2026 adjusted EBITDA, which is very fair. I mean, one could argue 16x EBITDA multiples are low, and 20 tends to be a little bit more fair for certain industries. 18 is where you put in the middle. When I did my initial valuation of Robinhood back in December 2023, me and my friend Sebastian, who's an investment banker out in LA, we used an 18x EBITDA multiple, which we thought was relatively conservative, and he works in that space. So he felt, those numbers is what a lot of private businesses get. And we got to a price target of $16. And we didn't expect 40% year-over-year growth, but now that growth along with that EBITDA multiple seems relatively fair. And you get a sort of price target here that Bank of America believes is $32. They finally say, we remain bullish on Hood, giving rising retail engagement and accelerating organic growth. Second, positive operating leverage after large expense reductions. And 3, attractive valuation following increases in EBITDA and EPS. While the Hood stock outperformed over the last 12 months, it's still down from post-IPO levels in 2021. And Hood operates in a big TAM, has a long runway of growth with self-directed retail and crypto globally. So that's what got the market excited. That's what got the market very, very excited. And it's done well, dude. It's done well, at least in the context of how Bank of America is thinking about them. So stock was up 30% on the day. I think the stock will still have more volatility. If Bitcoin tanks, Robinhood will tank. If the broader market retests the September lows, Robinhood will probably retest 14. But as of now, it's getting enough people that are exciting for, or Bank of America is getting exciting for their organic growth. This was important. Last point on Robinhood that's important. Vlad did another interview with Bankless. You guys might know this podcast. I'm going to be streaming this tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So we'll watch this together. It's about an hour. But this is a very respected crypto podcast. And Vlad, this is his 15th appearance on independent media sources this year, obviously including with my podcast that he did back in February. And he's done many more after that. So I think he understands the power of going to an independent media source like Bankless. It's a very respected name in the crypto industry. And I think every CEO needs to understand media distribution to amplify their message in a meaningful way. And if they don't do that, they're going to get left behind. Robinhood CEO seems like he really understands what it means to engage with independent media sources, and he's getting the benefit from that. So I think Vlad is working. He understands that more media attention is good on the stock, and he knows how to get people in different segments like the crypto population and also general retail investors. So exciting day in the context of Robinhood. Have you seen the letter from the European Commission to Elon? Yeah, I saw this. This is very interesting. Elon basically told them to GFY. So the European Commission said, hey, you should just be careful when you stream your debate with Trump tonight. And Elon said, to be honest, I really never wanted to respond with a Tropic Thunder meme, but I would never do something so rude and irresponsible. And then he responds with this meme. So this is going to be a really interesting night, dude. The European Commission is becoming a lot more stringent on hate speech and a variety of ways that people communicate online. We're seeing what's happening in the UK as well. So they sent this letter to Elon publicly. They posted this at 12:30, and Elon basically said they should, GFY. So I'm going to be really interested to see what happens today. I'll be streaming it. I'll be very interested to see what happens today, and we'll see how it plays out. We will see how it plays out. Doug says, amid retail investors are also Vlad's main customers, so he gets a double whammy, customer engagement and investor engagement. Yes, that's true. But also, the stock is still 75% institutionally held. So that's another thing to understand about Robinhood. It's that the majority of institutions own the stock, not retail, but a lot of retail investors are excited about the stock. And so you get a lot of people that are excited to listen about the product, and they end up becoming investors in the company, which I think is beneficial. GameStop, we haven't looked at GameStop in a long time. Where's GameStop? We haven't looked at this thing in a long time. GameStop at $21.95, basically flat on the day, and then Chewy, $23.88. I don't know, man. The GameStop thing, Chewy thing, I still question it every day. Like, this Roaring Kitty dude comes out of nowhere, buys 9 million shares of GameStop, then, in my opinion, dumps it for Chewy. I don't know if he had another $180 million lying around to buy 9 million shares of Chewy. And then we don't hear from him since June 22nd. It's almost been 2 months. Like, it was so weird, so odd in terms of how this all played out. And I kind of feel bad for the people that got caught up in the GameStop saga. I really wanted to, by the way, but I said the day it happened on May 15th, I am not buying a share of this because I felt I matured as an investor from 2021, and I was not going to chase something that I know is stupid. And so I didn't. And happily I didn't, because a lot of people that bought in the 40s and 50s, dude, I mean, even in the 30s, like, I don't know if this shit's coming back. I don't know if this shit is coming back. So GameStop right here, still 4 million in volume. Someone was comparing GameStop to Robinhood the other day under my Twitter. They're like, well, I was like, Robinhood has 5 billion of cash, 15 billion market cap. They were like, GameStop has 9 billion in market cap, 4 billion in cash. And I was like, yeah, but two things. A, GameStop diluted the crap out of shareholders to raise that cash. B, they're not growing. So they're not growing. And if they're not, Robinhood is growing 40%. If they're not growing, then the cash on the balance sheet really is irrelevant. Same thing with Rivian. Rivian had cash on the balance sheet, but they weren't growing that much either. But then they got more cash on the balance sheet, which is why their tangible book value went up. But if you're not growing too much, it's tough. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens with GameStop. But yeah, tonight's going to be very interesting, dude. It's going to be really interesting with Trump and Elon. I have like no idea what to expect. I'm expecting, the one thing I definitely am expecting is technical difficulties. I doubt there's going to be a world where there's no technical difficulties tonight. You just have to imagine that a million people using that spaces, there's going to be some issues. S&P down a little bit after hours. So I would imagine there's a lot of hiccups with them to get it right because there's going to be so much traffic on it. But if they execute it well and Elon's got the team working overtime to make sure the architecture doesn't fail, then I guess that'll be a win for Twitter. DJT after hours flat, down 5% on the day. Again, Trump is back on Twitter. SoFi is up a little bit, 649 after hours. Robinhood down a little bit, 1852, and then Palantir 2931 on the day. I showed you guys it this morning, but just making sure people saw. Palantir did get a contract with a defense. I'll be talking about it more on the Daily Palantir episode today. Daily Palantir is going to be talking about 4 deals: Wendy's, Air Force, Microsoft, and then the South Korean contract we got this on Friday that we didn't talk about. But for those that don't know, a South Korean defense contractor is signed a memorandum of understanding with Palantir to develop advanced weapon systems leveraging big data. This, to me, I just love seeing this stuff because like defense contractors around the world are realizing they can just leverage Palantir's platform to build a lot of their systems on top of that. And if that's the case, dude, and the entire world steps up their defense spending, which it seems like there's no way that's not going to happen over the next decade, that's a market Palantir can easily attack. And maybe that's their Trojan horse to get into international commercial. Like if they get into South Korea's, they have a decent South Korean commercial business, but if they get into, I'm just putting a random country, but Indonesia's defense business, maybe they can get into the Indonesian commercial sector as well, because it's now you're developing relationships. One of the best deals on this is Babcock. Palantir's work with Babcock. I thought that was the most underrated partnership ever. Babcock is a defense manufacturer in the United Kingdom, and they have a lot of connections and a lot of contracts with the Ministry of Defense in the UK. Now, Palantir got a $78 million contract with the Ministry of Defense in the UK in December of 2022. Then they got that Babcock contract in April of 2023. I think Babcock is their kind of Trojan horse to get deeper contracts into the UK's Ministry of Defense. Why? Because they already have the NHS contract that we'd never talk about anymore, but like that's a big deal, right? So I think like there's so many different like unique ways that they're finding a go-to-market approach to get international growth. And I think the UK, Japan, and South Korea, those are going to be big markets for them as well. And so that'll be good. Someone said, should I buy a $5 subscription to your channel and become a member, or get Robinhood Gold? Get Robinhood Gold. That is way better than getting a subscription to this channel. All you get if you get a subscription to this channel is me saying I'm going to pick up the door this morning and then say oculate when I'm trying. I was listening to it in the morning, and I was like, did I say I was going to pick up the door, dude? Like there's certain things that I just don't know how to say stuff, man. I just don't know how to say certain things. But I guess we're going to normalize picking up the door. I normalize a lot. Like plethora, I know people think it's not the right way, but I think it is. And so we're just going to keep normalizing that. What else do we have? Those are the main headlines for the day. The Fed data on 2.3% inflation was the important thing. But outside of that, nothing too crazy. Benny says, admit the NHS here is still shit. Yeah, I would imagine. I don't think the NHS has changed overnight, and I'm still curious. It has the effects of Palantir impacted the NHS. And we'll see. When I was in DC with Iliano at the DC event, one of the Palantir employees from the UK was there. And so I asked her about her experience with the NHS. And she said, like, dude, people still hate Palantir in the UK. Like, they still like getting that contract was a big deal because they are not happy with Palantir because, they've heard so many things about Palantir is this evil company, yada, yada, yada. So she was going through that process in the UK for the past couple of years. And she was like, it was rough. She would like walk down the street and she would see people, yell at Palantir and all this stuff. So it was a big deal. They got that contract. Now they need to deliver results, and the more results they deliver, the better they're going to end up doing. Home Depot is tomorrow after or before the bell, and then Nubank's after the bell. UBS is on Wednesday, and then Alibaba, Walmart, and Deere are on Thursday. So those are going to be the main earnings for the rest of the week. David Glazer sold 107,000 shares. Okay, there we go. Let's pull it up. We got some insider selling. I was expecting this. It's been a long time. Really, they have not sold for almost 3 months. That is... Okay, so I don't see it yet on their website, but I'm assuming you're right. So Ryan Taylor sold 250,000 shares last Friday. I think he got an average of like 29.50 or something. David Glazer, I want to see if he got the top today, dude. I want to see if Glazer got the top. I want to see if they have like algorithms to get the top. Let's see. Let me see if I can find the SEC form. No, I don't have it yet. It's probably going to come out in a little bit. Wait, is this it? No, this is not it. This is Ryan Taylor. I want to see. if he got 3120, dude. If he got 3120, that would be hilarious. He literally got the top. David Clear, 3 million versus okay, so 3 million shares. Let's do a rough math. $3 million divided by 105,000. No, it has to be a little bit more because that's going to be an average of 28.5, but we didn't dip to 28.5 today. So it's probably a little bit more. He probably got the high 29s. Douglas says Walmart is the canary in the coal mine. If Walmart is going strong, we are risk on. If they are seeing the house brands increasing market share, we may be in trouble. I agree. Walmart's going to be super important. Walmart's going to be super, super, super important. And if they see consumers continuing to spend without any real hiccups, that's going to be the biggest earnings of Q2, quite frankly, because everyone's worried about the consumer. And we need to be able to get more data on that. Okay, so I have the exact number right here. If it's 105,000 shares, wow, he got $30.72. If free cash flow is correct, about 3.2 million divided by 105,000 exactly. Your boy Glazer got the top, bro. Well, just below the top. The top was 31.20 today. He got $30.70, dude. 107,000. Okay, that's the exact number. All right, so 3226075 divided by 107,500. Okay, he got 30. He got 30 on the dot. He didn't get 30.70. He got 30 on the dot. Dude, because I think like I don't know how insiders sell, but they do it through like I don't know, JP Morgan or whatever. That's like having all their shares locked in their accounts, and like I think those bankers have algorithms that they assign to be able to get the best price you could possibly get when an insider sells. And so he got 30. Can't blame him, dude. He got 30. So $3 million. Not bad. Big love from Belgium. Thank you, free cash flow. I appreciate that information. Thank you so much. Appreciate that information. Douglas says, if customers are buying Coca-Cola, we're good. If they're buying Sam's Best, we are in trouble. Yes, exactly. So if Walmart says, hey, name brands like Coca-Cola and Tide and Reese's Puffs, their customers are choosing to buy the Walmart version of Reese's Puffs or the Walmart version of Coca-Cola, you do have an issue because Walmart's already cheap. And if you have to buy the cheap brand of the name brand at Walmart, then your consumers are becoming much more conscious and they're cutting back. So I do agree that's going to be very important to judge on the state of the consumer as well. Thank you for the $3 super chat. Decently nice dude. I love that name. Mid is the best. Appreciate your positive energy. Thank you all for being here every single morning. Really appreciate it. It means the world to me, and in the afternoons. And we'll be back at 8 p.m. today, and we'll see what Trump and Elon have to say. But thank you, everybody, for being here. I say Reese's as Reese's. I don't say recess. Am I saying Reese's wrong now? Am I saying Reese's? I've always said Reese's. So if you're going to critique me for saying Reese's Puffs, am I saying Reese's wrong? I don't care. I've said Reese's my whole life. Okay. I've said Reese's my whole life. That's how you say it. I don't care what anyone says. I'm saying Reese's. So don't make fun of me on that because that's how I say it. Hershey's or the Beast Bar. I haven't tried the new Beast Bar. I haven't tried it. I saw it at the store the other day. It was like $4. I was like, screw this, dude. I'm not paying that. So I was going to buy it, but it was too expensive. I still like Hershey's. I know people don't like Hershey's. I still like Hershey's, but I haven't tried the new Mr. Beast Bar. When I do try it, I'll have a better opinion on that. I tried the old one from like May of last year. It sucked, dude. It was so bad. I was like, what type of garbage is it? But apparently they came up with a new formula or whatever. So we'll see if that's different. What is your personal price target for Palantir by 2030? This is a really interesting question. That's what, 6 years from now? I don't know, man. Like, I think if you assume an aggressive 30% growth year over year, you get closer to 150. If you attach like a broader multiple on it, just because Palantir is one of those over expensive names that's always going to be expensive, I think 200 is not crazy, but really 200 to me is more so a 2035 thing than a 2030 thing. I do think at least 100 by 2030. So I think a 3x in the next 6 years is possible. Just because if AI is going to become more important and LLMs are going to become more relevant, and you believe Palantir has the goods, which is the ontology to make the LLM meaningful, and this government business is now reaccelerating, I don't know, dude. I think in 6 years, CAGRing at 30% year over year, or at least 25% year over year, plus the multiple of just Palantir being a household name, Carp's releasing a book on in February, like so many people caring about Palantir, the media attention. I think $100 by 2030 is not insane, if not more. So I would have to do a broader DCF to come up with like a reasonable price target based on the numbers, but my gut tells me we're going to be triple digits in 2030. And if that happens, that's why I think buying at 30 is still, you get a 3x. However, buying at 30, you are definitely buying a top right now because Palantir is up 80% year to date at 30. So you have to be very cognizant of the fact that it could obviously take a tumble even back to 25, 26, just because it's up a lot, right? And this is just what happens with a lot of these names. Nvidia today, ending the day at 109. It's down a little bit after hours at 108. Now, there's a couple reasons I thought why Nvidia was up. So let me show you these reasons. I think SMCI is one of the reasons raising their guidance. And that's something the street's getting excited about. Second of all, that TSM July number of sales up 44% year over year. I thought that also was something that the street is liking for Nvidia. You just can't deny SMCI increasing guidance or TSM showing July sales because all of those numbers affect Nvidia and they affect their top line growth trajectories. And then finally, I think the market's getting excited as they always do leading up to Nvidia earnings. I mean, if Nvidia puts up big daddy numbers, it continuously reminds us. Sometimes the market just forgets this stuff, right? Because we have a short-term memory. But if Nvidia says, hey, like we are growing like crazy and AI is very, very real and it's not stopping, sometimes you just need to be reminded that. And when the street is reminded that again, maybe the bullish sentiment goes back to large caps because this is where all the value is. This is where all the cash is. This is where all the buybacks are. This is where all the free cash flow is. And Nvidia continues to catch a bid and maybe normalizes at 125 to 130. So we'll see what happens with Nvidia, but I think that's why it benefited today. And good day for Nvidia, dude. If the bottom was 90 on Nvidia and Dan Niles is wrong, then the Q's bottomed as well. And we're probably not testing 420 again on the NASDAQ. And then 507 on the S&P. And if we don't test those, then I think that's going to be good. I've looked into Serve. So I haven't done enough due diligence on Serve. I know a lot of people like this one. I know NVIDIA invested in them. That's why these guys are up. Were they up there? Wow, they're down 18% today. Was there any news on Serve? Or I mean, it's up like crazy this year. Yeah, look, dude, it was $2 on July 16th. It went to $24. Now it's at 11. So if you bought at 2, you really can't complain too much. But it's fallen pretty heavily from 24 to 11. This name is just, this name is not a big company yet, but the potential of them being a big company in the robotic space because of NVIDIA's investing in them, that is what got people excited. Lumen, let's look at that one as well. They got a $5 billion deal last week. Lumen was down 16% today. Yeah, a lot of these names that are going up like SoundHound, Lumen, Serve, all AI plays, but you got to get the timing right on these because they're still kind of not meme stocks because they're like legit companies, but they're trading like meme stocks. And so you've got to be really like smart with how you get in them. I don't know enough about Serve to go long on them, but I am doing more research on them because the NVIDIA tap on the shoulder obviously means something, and it's something to at least look at when they pick a company. Lumen got short squeeze. Yes, that is correct. They definitely got short squeeze as well. Tesla says, granted, but being able to link records from any hospital and any specialist in live time all the way back to birth is all down to Palantir from paramedic GPs to hospitals. Well, I was talking to someone who was in the hospital this weekend because they had some family issues, and they saw the legacy IT that their loved ones' data was being stored on because they're a tech person, and they were like kind of just like looking at what the nurses were doing, and they were just like, dude, we need Palantir here. Like we really need it. We need Palantir in the healthcare sector. There's a reason Palantir is growing rapidly in the healthcare sector. There's a reason they power 20% of beds in the United States. I think it's a no-brainer that Palantir in healthcare needs to happen at a more dramatic pace. And I think it will happen over time because the market's just going to recognize that they need solutions. And it hits different when it's your loved ones, dude. When it's your loved ones and technology is the defining factor between them getting the medicine on time and so many other things happening. Really matters, and making sure that Palantir obviously can play a role in transforming a lot of that technology I think is relevant as well. Let's get an update on semiconductor names and what's going on from there and where we think semiconductors broadly are going, along with NVIDIA earnings as well.
Sales as Apple closes in on an internal modem for its new iPhones. Qualcomm shares recovered from their lows of the day, but still closed in the red. You can see down about 1% on a day when fellow chip maker NVIDIA, which we just talked about, jumped 4%. So joining us now is the analyst behind that call, Chris Caso from Wolfe Research. Chris, it's good to have you back on the show. Going to start right there with the downgrade. Why now? And haven't we heard this before about internal modems and the decoupling from Qualcomm with Apple, and it didn't actually come to fruition?
Well, and that's a reason why Qualcomm was up last month, because Apple, the idea was they're going to have so many iPhones, Qualcomm's going to provide so much revenue for them. So that is part of the downgrade that he issued today.
We did. We've been hearing it for a while, and we think that's what changed today. It's really what drove the downgrade. That we've been hearing this for so long, and we think that Apple has finally made enough progress on the internal modem in order to get some of those units in there. So what's different now is a couple things. One is that we think Apple has made some progress, and it's not in the numbers for either Qualcomm's fiscal 26, 27 when this would come in. In addition, since Apple signed that supply agreement with Qualcomm back in September, the stock is up 50% since that point. So it's a combination of finally we're here, is a little bit of boy who cried wolf, and the wolf is finally here, and then plus the stock is up since that situation is why we made the decision to downgrade today.
Okay. You also seem like you're skeptical based on this note on the IoT play. And we know in the last earnings recently, Qualcomm was really talking about industrial IoT.
Well, and when you go back a couple of years ago when this came up for one of the earlier times, we defended Qualcomm stock at the time because what they had in their pocket was very strong auto revenue. And, right now, going out to fiscal 26, they now have $4 billion in auto revenue that's coming in. And the nice thing about auto is you have good 3 years of visibility on that. Again, since then, the stock's up a lot. Auto is now in the estimates. The iPhone reduction is not. And what the company hopes to replace that with, which they'll talk about their analyst day in November, is IoT. And the problem is IoT, it's a more competitive market. There's, more companies in it. It's harder to get visibility. And, with auto already in the numbers, we just think that's going to be a tougher sell to investors.
Okay.
So Qualcomm got the downgrade. I think this boy who cried wolf thesis is correct. Until Apple puts up real numbers on this new iPhone, Qualcomm's not going to get the benefit of that. And it's already up a lot since they signed the partnership. So I think that's why he's saying it doesn't need a greater multiple. And now it's a question of, is Apple going to sell 100 million phones of this iPhone 16? Thank you for someone in the chat telling me that BuzzFeed had earnings today. I didn't know about this. So BuzzFeed, Vivek Ramaswamy took I think 10% stake in the company a while ago, and it pumped. Right now it's up 29%, 30% after hours. Revenue's up 3% year over year. $46.9 million. That's down 24% from the second quarter. Programmatic advertising revenue is up 3%, but overall top line revenue is down 24%. Advertising revenue declined 19% to $23.8 million. Content revenue declined 48% to $11 million. Net loss was $6.5 million. Time spent declined 5% year over year to 71 million hours on BuzzFeed's website. Does anyone actually go to BuzzFeed's media properties at all? I don't know why the hell this thing is up 31% after hours. Maybe because the market cap is $82 million and I don't know, dude. People are buying it because of Vivek or whatever they're buying it for. But does anyone use BuzzFeed? Let's go to their website right now, dude. I have not been on BuzzFeed ever since I was on Facebook, and you'd probably click on a random commercial or something. This is BuzzFeed. So the headlines are, I don't even know what the headlines are. 18 tweets proving no one had a better Olympic experience than Snoop Dogg. Dude, who's clicking on this stuff and actually reading this? Who's actually spending meaningful time of their parts of their life, reading some of this shit? I mean, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm not a pop culture guy, so I can't relate. And I don't want to critique people's media consumption patterns because I watch dogs on TikTok. But I'm just saying, like, how is BuzzFeed, like, how are they really generating this much attention? It's like, I don't know, dude. This is so interesting. Battle of the Summer Anthems. Which tunes are your favorites? There's like 13-year-old girls, dude, that have to be using BuzzFeed. Like, there's no one else, dude. 56 Taylor Swift trivia questions and answers for all you cute little Swifties. Not gonna lie, I should probably take that quiz. No, I'm just kidding. But like, come on, bro. It's just, I know the same people can say this. Oh, admit you're looking at a ticker all day. You're looking at stocks. Like, how? But at least like that's somewhat more important in life. Like, we're analyzing financial markets. Like, I feel like that has some more importance than looking at, Taylor Swift's songs in which it matches your personality. Now, granted, for Swifties, that, that content's, I guess, valuable. I just don't know how you build a public company off that. Like, how do you build a real public company off of that as your audience? I don't know. It's tough. It's definitely not the easiest thing to do. I don't even look at sports anymore because like it just feels like so much of a waste of time. I think sports is a good like leisure thing to like escape reality, but if it's not like intellectually stimulating me and sports is just like random entertainment, it's just like fun to see Steph Curry hit some shots, but it's not something I'm going to actually like. I remember, dude, I used to pay attention to the storylines of the NBA. I would like care about what LeBron was thinking about in like December. And I'm like, now I'm just like, dude, how could I ever like have give that much of a fuck about LeBron? Like, I don't care. Like, him winning a championship does nothing for my life. Absolutely nothing. It's just like, it's just not important. But the Fed, Jerome Powell talking about how he thinks about inflation, that does a lot for my life. So I guess it's just a different level of interest in different areas. We got to BuzzFeed. Someone's asking because they had earnings today, and that's why they're up 30%. The Australian breakdancing team was the best thing, dude. This morning, I really thought someone said that they were, actually breakdancing in Australia, and I didn't know that was a meme in the Olympics. I still haven't watched it yet. I can't watch it on YouTube. Olympics is being crazy, dude. They're censoring anyone that shows anything because it's owned by NBC. They're like, you show like 5 seconds, they know, like the All In podcast, dude. They showed a couple of I think like 30 seconds of like some Olympic activity, and YouTube blocked the podcast. So the Olympics are really not messing around with copyright strikes. That's why I'm so afraid to play anything, dude, because YouTube is just tough with that. But I have to watch the breakdance thing because I've not seen it yet. You could be the next Raygun. Oh boy, I gotta watch it, dude. I'll report tomorrow after I watch it and see. All right. Do we have anything else? I think that's pretty much it, guys. And then I'll be back at 8 p.m. Let me see if there's any other news. But it was relatively a slow day. Nothing too exciting, nothing too crazy. Market's relatively flat. Nvidia was up 4% of the day. Robinhood, again, those upgrades that helped Robinhood up 3.46% of the day. S&P flat. QQQ up 0.22%. And then Palantir 29.24. I will have a daily Palantir episode coming out in 2 hours. And it'll break through all the deals we got last week. So that'll be out in a bit. But outside of that, nothing else. Trump and Elon tonight. I will be live at 7:50 p.m. And we'll see what Trump and Elon have to say. I'm very excited for this. I have no idea what they're going to talk about. I think it's only going to be audio, not video. So I'll be live. If you don't have a Twitter account, you can use my stream to listen to it. And we'll see. We'll see what they have to say. Bring your mayo popcorn to the show. Oh God, please don't. Please, no one put mayo on their popcorn. Like, don't. Butter is okay, obviously, but mayo is. Who would do that, dude? Who in their right mind would do that? Dip popcorn in mayo? Like, no, dude. That's just like not. That's not the thing. But yes, bring some food because that'll be live at 8 p.m. And then we have a lot of important data coming tomorrow. We have PPI and then CPI this week. PPI and CPI this week, and that's going to determine pretty much where the rest of the market goes. NVIDIA right here up 4% on the day. All right, that's it for me. 7:50. I'll be back, and let's see what Elon and Trump have to say later today. I don't know how long the stream's going to go. Probably an hour and a half, but we'll be live. We'll analyze it afterwards. We'll take some notes. And then tomorrow, we've got a lot of data coming in to keep going from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. I will see you in about 4 hours. and we'll go from there. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.